In honor of Sea of Charms coming out, I'm going to talk about my favorite cozy speculative fiction reads. Sea of Charms is the third book in the Spell Shop series, and so it kind of reinvigorated my love of cozy fantasy and cozy speculative fiction. So today, that's what I'm going to share with you. If you don't know who I am, my name's Lily. I'm the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind. And we're just going to start off with the book that started it all off, or started not the cozy fantasy genre, but this idea for me, this reinvigoration of that kind of subgenre, which is the Spell Shop. This is book one of the Spell Shop series. Sea of Charms is the third one, which is my current read, and An Enchanted Greenhouse is book two. But basically, in the Spell Shop, our main character is the librarian. There's a revolution in the city where the library is, and so to flee that, she ends up going back to her childhood home. That remote island, she finds out, doesn't have any jam. So then she decides to start making jam, and also there's a little bit of elements of unsanctioned magic usage. This book really looks at kind of when we should use magic, even though we shouldn't, like, legally use magic, and also why those rules are the way they are, and why they shouldn't maybe be the way that they are. So there's also a fun kind of magical companion in this one. I don't want to give away too well. I feel like in the synopsis it actually says that her magical companion is a magically sentient spider plant, and this actually ties into the sequel, An Enchanted Greenhouse. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but I loved book one and book two. My mom and I've talked about this on Instagram a bunch, but my mom and I have been really loving delving back into the cozy fantasy genre with the Spell Shop. I don't even have any of my own copies of the books because all of them are with my mom. All of my arcs and all of my finished copies are with my mom, so I don't actually have my copy with you to show. I also was able to meet Sarah in April, kind of just randomly, and it was so amazing. But anyway, that's kind of the start off point. And then after I read The Spell Shop, and let's see, what year did I read The Spell Shop in? I read, why does it not say? Well, the Spell Shop was published in 2024, so I probably read it either in 2024 or late 2023. And that really kind of made me think about, well, what other books are giving me that similar vibe that I want to share with you all? And so I've been kind of sitting on this list for a while and going back and forth about this list. And so I'm just going to share with you some other speculative fiction cozy reads. The next one, kind of OG favorites as well, that I was thinking about before I even started pulling together this list, is obviously Sangu Mandana's the A Magical Innkeeper's Guide, or Magical Guide to Innkeeping, and also The Very Secret Society of Witches. These are fantastic. And also, I adored like 5 million stars, The Very Secret Society of Witches. So in The Very Secret Society of Witches, it is a book about one of witches who are in hiding. Our main character is hiding her magic. But in this world, she also takes videos of her pretending to be a witch because she's kind of like, no one's going to take this seriously. Everyone knows magic isn't real, wink, wink. So it's not a big deal. However, she randomly gets a message which tells her that she needs to go to this place where she will teach 3 young witches how to control their magic. So there, she's really trying to reconcile like this line between magic not being real and also magic being real, and also these 3 witches who desperately need her help in control, but also in like navigating their relationship with magic. And sort of emblematic to the cozy speculative fiction world, found family and belonging are huge themes in these kind of subgenres. And so there she kind of grapples with what it means to belong and making a home with these witches and what it would mean to kind of open herself up to those relationships. It is so precious, and as I said, like an OG favorite for the cozy kind of fantasy, cozy speculative fiction, first published in 2022. So this also predates The Spell Shop, which is why these 2 titles were kind of percolating in my mind while I was thinking about what other books give me a similar vibe. And similarly, obviously, to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, we have a Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, which came out in 2025. And basically, this one is she was one of the most powerful witches in Britain, but then she resurrects her great aunt Jasmine, and loses most of her magic, and then goes to this magical inn. There, she kind of uncovers this magical spell book, which could give her her powers back. But similarly to what I've been saying, this kind of found family within the inn is so cute, and also I didn't think that I could love these books anymore after the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, at least Sangu's kind of cozy fantasy series. But then this one, just like, I don't know, something about their relationships and something specifically about how she has to grapple with this idea of what does it mean to be powerful, what does it mean to have power, and also the power that we can have, which isn't kind of like inherently power, is a big theme in this one, and I just adore both of these. So obviously, if you haven't read those three books and you love cozy fantasy, these ones are kind of OG favorites. But similarly to the whole idea of power and what it means to kind of have power and unconventional uses of power and sources of power, The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong is amazing. So in The Teller of Small Fortunes, she is a fortune teller, and she's committed to only telling small fortunes because we all know big fortunes are a big deal. But then what we see throughout the book is that small fortunes also have this ability to change and to impact the future in ways you might not be expecting, because not like the big fortunes. But that is kind of one of the magical sources in this book. She ends up telling one of these small fortunes and ends up joining this ex-mercenary who's searching for a lost child, and there's kind of like a group of them who are all doing this. And why I'm tying those books together, the Magical Innkeeping and this one, is because they're both grappling with this idea of our power and what we should do with our power, and what we shouldn't do with our power, but also kind of the ways that we can have kind of like the inherent, very classic kind of magical power, and also, I guess, like the power of interpersonal relationships and the powers that are kind of discounted as well. And so both of these are being discussed in both of those different books, and that's why I wanted to link those. But also, Julie has written, what is the name of it? Julie's written The Keeper of Magical Things, which is so fabulous. Basically, one of the main characters, there are two main characters, and one of the main character is a up and coming, are they called magicians here? Mage, up and coming mage, and she is paired with what is she actually paired with? I think another mage. Yes, another mage, and they're kind of sent to this place, and they're supposed to catalog all these items in this inventory of a small town, sort of like an estate sale, essentially. But what they go there and they realize is the people don't they don't like them. They don't like mages specifically, and kind of similarly to the last books, it's because the idea of power has all of these unintended consequences and all these unintended victims. And so these particular this village is kind of like, miss me with that magic, like, it's just not for us. And so this story is about them trying to kind of figure out the place of magic. And I think what I specifically love so much about this one is one of these like kind of small details. But basically, one of the characters has this necklace on, which basically tells you like the worst inner narration voice in our minds, basically. But it just felt like such a beautiful magical metaphor to real life and the anxieties and like the worst thoughts that you hear in your own mind, that I just loved it. Also, this one's particularly, I love the both of these characters are navigating through their families, and specifically, it kind of ties into the necklace. So I don't want to give too many spoilers, but basically, the ways that our family can have these expectations or the lack of expectations, and the support system, and when we lean on them, when we can't lean on them, basically all of that. Stay for a Spell is actually one of my most recent additions to this list. It is so fabulous. Basically, she is a princess, and so she has lots of princess duties, but then she kind of gets by accidentally trapped in a bookshop where it's sort of like a fate kind of decision, where when she's like, she'll be able to leave the bookshop when she has her true desire, like when she's the happiest, basically, kind of similar to that. And so her parents are kind of like, let's just send you every prince we possibly can find. You'll fall in love with him, and then you'll kiss him, and then you'll be so happy and you'll be able to leave. But obviously, not gonna happen, basically. So she's cursed, and then she meets this other person who's also cursed, and they're kind of trying to figure out if they can break the curse from the books in the bookshop. But of course, like the whole umbrella of cozy speculative fiction reads, we're talking about found family, about belonging. And so there she really has to navigate and explore, well, like, do I really want that? Do I really want to keep going on to this world where I leave the bookshop and I keep going on these not press tours? I'm watching a lot of press tours right now for the Odyssey, but where she keeps going on these kind of diplomatic missions, and she has all these responsibilities and all these things she has to do, has to. But like, what does she want to do? That was such a core theme in Stay for a Spell, and I loved it so much because it's fun. It's like being trapped in a bookshop. It's kind of like our bookworm's worst nightmare. Oh no, what will I do that I'm trapped in a bookshop? But it also looks at your heart's desire and what that means when you really have to decide it for yourself. So that was one of I think my most recent additions to the kind of cozy speculative fiction world. And now I'm going to talk about two that are sci fi. The first ones that I have to give a shout out to, the all time cozy sci fi goat before we even were calling it cozy sci fi, Becky Chambers. So good. Just like, okay, you have ones that are less cozy and more kind of mystery, like where is it on my shelf? To Be Taught If Fortunate. That one, that novella, just that's so good. It's just so good. I'm not going to talk about it in this video because it doesn't fit the vibe, but these I have never read a Becky Chambers book that hasn't slapped. Period. But I don't know what the actual series name is for it. And I always mess up the names because I feel like, is it a rule that for cozy speculative fiction, you have to have names that are just 5 million words long? But it is the Wayfarer series. The first one is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Then we have A Closed and Common Orbit, Record of a Spaceborne View, and The Galaxy and the Ground Within. I would say these are all varying levels of like cozy-ish. Why I say that is I feel like The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet was the least cozy of them all. We have a similarly kind of umbrella of being found family, belonging, crew dynamics, specifically with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Becky Chambers has such a beautiful way of discussing characters and the way that the characters relate to each other. I think, in my opinion, The Galaxy and the Ground Within is probably the coziest of them all. There's still obviously large scale world kind of peril because ironically, cozy, this is a whole nother video, but cozy speculative fiction does not mean that there isn't peril. I feel like some of the trademarks of cozy speculative fiction, and maybe this should have been in the introduction, but some of the trademarks certainly to me are found family, belonging, character work is a huge part of it, but also we have these kind of large scale things, but we're never like worried that the world is going to kind of like disappear. They're not kind of apocalyptic. They're kind of things in which we inherently maybe have faith in the people around and like faith in their ability to kind of meets life's challenges and be able to keep going, whatever form that takes. I would be interested if everyone can let me know down below what your feelings are about cozy fantasy, cozy speculative fiction, how you feel about that. But at least for me, The Galaxy and the Ground Within, basically the plot is that there's this planet. I've actually pitched this book so many times in real life this year alone to people at social settings, but there's this planet and it's kind of like a pit stop fuel planet basically. But then when there are these random assortment of people who are all there on the planet, the satellite like telecommunication communication network starts going out, and they also can't leave the planet, and also they're not getting messages, and it's kind of like radio silence. And so all these people who wouldn't normally ever speak to each other are all stuck on this planet and all trying to figure out how they make sense of what has happened to them in their lives, what the future might hold for them, their interpersonal relationships as well. And the idea of wanting to leave the planet. We have some characters who maybe were on the planet before and want to leave the planet. And then obviously we have the spacefarers who were going to leave the planet but can't leave the planet. And so to me, that one specifically strikes this balance between internal stakes and large stakes. Because in cozy speculative fiction as a whole, I don't think it's true that there are no stakes, right? I just think the stakes take on a different toll, right? I feel like we have less kind of, oh my God, these are the large scale stakes. And more kind of like, there are large scale stakes, they exist, they're out there, but this is my personal stake. And to me, I think maybe that is one of the tenets of cozy fantasy, cozy speculative fiction, this changing of kind of stakes for yourself. And then similarly to this as well, just a quick mention for a novella series. We have another recent read of mine. It is the Dorothy Gentleman series. The first one is called. Hold on, what is the first one called? Yes, the series is called Dorothy Gentleman. And the first one's called Murder by Memory, basically. It's a novella series. The first two are out, the third one is coming out. But basically, the whole premise, I'll sort of summarize the first one. The whole premise of this one is that we're on this large scale, kind of not generational, but kind of it's been floating for a while. And so you upload your memories to kind of like a memory data bank. And what happens is all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a murder, which has not happened this whole time. They've been floating around. But it is a story that is about, really kind of makes you think about memory, think about your place having memories, what it means to kind of have a memory data bank, and like what would it be like if you didn't forget anything, like if you could just kind of upload it at the end of the day. And also the stakes of what it would happen if sort of people started tampering with it, or like what if you actually did commit a murder but then you erase your own memory bank. It's a really interesting sci-fi concept, but it also has this cozy atmosphere because all the characters have spent so long with each other. Obviously, though, things are happening. And I think as well, the second book, Nobody's Baby, I feel like is maybe a little bit cozier than the first one, because in Nobody's Baby, similarly to kind of what I was saying, there aren't really children on this one because everyone's memory kind of keeps re-uploading and uploading stuff. But all of a sudden there's a baby. And we're kind of like, well, what? Where is the baby? Like, where did this baby come from? How did we not know there was someone who was pregnant? And so there has that sort of sense of memory there, and sort of why we would be like why we would even erase the memory of it. Like that one as well is something that I mentioned in the terms of sci-fi. But we also have a sci-fi story, and it is Lost in Space. Rebecca Thorne is kind of known as doing a lot of cozy fantasy. The Tomes and Tea series, I'm not done with that series. So I haven't included it in this video because I'm not done with it. But basically, Lost in Space is the series opener, and I read it and I loved it. Basically, our main character finally buys a starship. It's kind of a long dream. Finally buys a starship, but it's kind of the lowest starship of all of them, and unwittingly or well, yes, unwittingly and also unknowingly, this starship is actually an alien starship, which has a consciousness as well, that lives in the moss, basically. So they end up trying to figure out how to work together. Obviously, also, the main character has their own reasons for wanting a starship. And so that is the basic for the basic premise of Lost in Space. What I love sentient spaceships, like that's just something that is a niche interest of mine. But as well, I loved the reactions. I also kind of like the intercultural communications that we have between the moss and between the main character. We also get a lot of chapters from the Moss perspective about things that are happening with humans, where it's just so funny. This one is so humorous as well. And so if you really love cozy speculative fiction, cozy sci-fi, this has to be for you because I really, really loved it. I've really been looking forward to a sci-fi project from Rebecca, and this one was just a million thumbs up. It was so fun, and I loved seeing these characters take on new evolution as they kind of have to figure out what is important to them. And while we're on the topic of Rebecca Thorne, let me just mention the other fantasy series, which is the Tomes and Tea, Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. I read book 1 and I think book 2, but I haven't read book 3 and 4. But it's basically a book where we have these two characters, one, and they want to just open a bookshop and also coincidentally serve tea. One of the characters is kind of like the most powerful mage, and the other one used to work as the queen's private guards. So retirement's not going to be easy, basically. And so it's about them trying to have kind of like a quiet life, and life saying, no, 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 no. The things that have happened in your past, they will catch up to you, like right now. And so basically that happens. And so there's kind of all of these incidents where the past kinds of keeps trying to drag them back. And that's certainly a theme actually in the second book as well. As I said, I haven't read book 3 and 4. It's on my TBR. But that is certainly a theme as well, kind of the idea that the past might not let us go, even if we want to, and how we reconcile that. And so, yeah, I wanted to mention that one as well while we're on the topic of Rebecca Thorne. So, let me know down below what some of your favorite cozy speculative fiction reads are. I could make, honestly, parts 2, 3, 4, 5 million of this, and I probably will because I've been really loving the cozy speculative fiction space. And I feel like maybe I should make a video as well if I sit down and actually have some concrete outline and concrete thoughts about what makes cozy speculative fiction. So, look forward to both of those videos coming in the future. And I hope you have a really great rest of your reading day, week, month, and year. And I'll see you in the future. Bye.